Okioki 3, Astro Sniper, and Wayne Trinity 4 are racing very closely for 12th place, with frequent position changes. Meanwhile, Duff Dad, Issy 1212 and Grinninjib are engaged in a tight contest for 16th place, exchanging positions rapidly. Bobardo, Jasek 72, Todd R. Gardner, and Dikadursnik are also fighting fiercely for 19th place, maintaining close distances. La Poisson 1980 is currently in 5th place, having started from 17. They are driving a 1969 Pontiac GTO, which is known for its powerful V8 engine and muscle car performance. As the race progresses, La Poisson 1980 has made significant gains on multiple competitors, suggesting good pace and strategy. Neotexum has advanced one position, now in 12th place. Sidrak is closely pursuing Neotexum, with the two engaged in a tight contest for that spot. Meanwhile, Unziria Sky, SBS Tsumi 78, and Duff Dad are all racing closely together, vying for 17th place, while Issy 1212 joins the battle. The dynamic on the track remains intense. The Adelaide No Chicane track is tight and technical, making overtaking challenging. Drivers with good cornering skills and braking efficiency are benefiting from the track layout, while those starting further back are struggling to make up positions due to limited racing lines. The vintage car dynamics add to this with slower acceleration and cornering compared to modern vehicles, affecting overall race pace and strategy. Buchizero, driving the 1969 Pontiac GTO, currently occupies 3rd place in the race. With a notable starting position of 3rd, they have maintained their position without any overtakes during the race thus far. Their fastest lap time, of 1:53.968, indicates competitive pace, but is slightly slower than those ahead. The focus will be on whether they can fend off challenges from the drivers behind and potentially catch up to the leaders. Buchizero, driving the 1969 Pontiac GTO, currently holds 3rd place. Starting from the 3rd position, they have maintained their spot, showing a consistent performance with a fastest lap time of 1:53.968 seconds. The car's powerful engine and vintage design contribute to its competitive stance in this race, but it seems they have not yet made any overtakes, remaining firmly in their position as the race progresses. Rizaldi Adha, driving the 1969 Pontiac GTO, is currently in 2nd place. Starting from 9th position, they have made a significant move up the grid and set a fastest lap of 1 minute and 46.02 seconds. Their performance indicates strong pace and consistent traction as they challenge the leader, while maintaining a comfortable gap to third place. The vehicle's muscle car characteristics contribute to effective acceleration on the straights, aiding their progress in this race. Zero and Black Me Stone, 149, are now just 1.4 seconds behind Rizaldi Adha and Electric Mary, intensifying their battle for second place. Famaka and Naibe have successfully moved up one position to take sixth place, showing solid pace as the race progresses. Lord of the Jungle and Kapaba Park have successfully moved up 2 positions, now in 5th place. Kogi Binanadi and Boris are reducing the gap to Famaka and Naibi by 1.5 seconds. Todar Gardner and Dakota Snake are also gaining on El Pio SD, and Maya cutting the gap down by 1.8 seconds. Lord of the Jungle, driving the 1969 Pontiac GTO, is currently in 5th place. Starting from 10th, they've made a notable recovery. The GTO is known for its powerful V8 engine, which provides strong straight-line speed. Their fastest lap time of 1 minute and 46.4 seconds indicates competitive pace, and they are climbing the ranks effectively in this race. The current situation for Gary Z in 4th place shows a strong performance, having moved up from 15th position at the start. His consistent lap times indicate he is maintaining speed well. On the other hand, Duff Dad is currently in 16th place, moving up from that position but still struggling to match the pace of those ahead. If Gary Z can maintain his momentum, the battle will likely be at an advantageous level for him as they progress in the race. Zero and Black Maystone 149 have advanced 2 positions to take 1st place. Lord of the Jungle and Kapaba Park also moved up 2 spots, now in 3rd place. Meanwhile, Gary Z, Robis G and Rizaldi Adaha are engaged in a close contest for 4th place, with Electromary joining the battle as well. Koki Binenity and Boris are rapidly closing in on Gary Z and Robes J, cutting the gap by 5.5 seconds. Famaka and Naibi have advanced 2 positions to 4th place. La Croissant 1980 has gained 1 position to take 6th place. Rizaldi Adha and Electric Murray have now moved up to 4th place. Sabinet 27 and Nishiovoy have also advanced, taking 8th place. Koki Beninity and Boris are engaged in a tight battle with Sabina 27 and Nishiovoy for 8th place. The racing dynamics are intensifying. Rekadrust and Amy are reducing the gap to 7:27 as Monsieur Voy, now just 5.4 seconds behind. The Marker and Naibi have advanced one position to 4th place. Koki Beninity and Boris Oboris also gained one position, now holding 8th place. Lord of the Jungle and Kebab Bapak have progressed to 2nd place. Rizaldi Adha and Electric Murray are now in 4th place after moving up one position. Todar Gardner and Dika Snake are approaching El Pio SD and Maya, decreasing the gap by 3 seconds. Huggins 3, driving the 1969 Pontiac GTO, is currently in 3rd place. Starting from 8th, they have moved up 5 positions during the race, showcasing strong pace with a fastest lap time of 1 minute 45.822 seconds. This consistent performance indicates competitive driving as they contend with the leading drivers around them. Huggard 3 and Deplorable Apple have both advanced, now occupying 2nd place. Lacrosson 1980 has also gained one position, and is currently in 5th place. Koki Beninity and Boris Oboris are closing in on Gary Z and Robus XJ, narrowing the gap by 2:30 seconds. Koki Beninity and Boris Oboris are making significant progress, now just behind Gary Z and Robus XJ, with a reduced gap of 5.5 seconds. Meanwhile, Rizaldi Adha and Electric Murray are also advancing, cutting the distance to Lord of the Jungle and Kebab Bapak by 3.6 seconds. The race is becoming more competitive as these drivers gain ground. Rizaldi Adha and Electric Murray have both moved up one position into 3rd place. There is an intense battle developing for this position, as Lord of the Jungle and Kebab Bapak are also in the mix. Lacrosson 1980 is actively closing in on Lord of the Jungle and Kebab, reducing the gap to 2.7 seconds. The race dynamics are shifting with this close competition. Sabini 27 and Monsieur Voy have reduced the gap to Gary Z and Robes XJ by 6.7 seconds, showing strong pace. Meanwhile, Rekadrust and Amy are also making progress, cutting down the distance to Koki Beninity and Boris Oboris by 10.5 seconds. Duff Dad is currently in 16th place, driving a 1972 Maserati Merak. The Maserati Merak is known for its striking design and rear engine layout, featuring a V6 engine that produces good power. Duff Dad started in 16th position, and has recorded a fastest lap time of 1 minute and 57.231 seconds. There hasn't been a significant change in position during the race so far, maintaining a consistent pace. Sidrek has reduced the gap to Neo-Texan by 5.1 seconds and is gaining rapidly. Okioki 3 and Astro Sniper have both moved up one position, now in 12th place. Bobardo is driving a 1955 Porsche 356A, a classic model known for its lightweight design and agile handling. Currently Bobardo is in 20th place, moving down from a starting position of 5th. Their fastest lap recorded at 2 minutes and 18:20.75 seconds indicates a significant drop in performance compared to their competitors. The car seems to be struggling to gain positions on the track. Sidrek is now just 5.8 seconds from Greninjib, making steady progress toward catching up. Huggett 3 and Deplorable Eagle are also gaining on Butcher0, reducing their gap by 1.2 seconds. Wayne 84 has moved up to 10th place, overtaking one driver. The track at Adelaide no chicane is likely favoring cars with higher top speeds, given its layout. The tight turns may disadvantage heavier vehicles, while lighter, well-handling cars can excel, particularly on cornering dynamics. The current standings reflect how crucial starting positions and overtakes are in negotiating this track effectively. Hoda 3 and Deplorably Apple are gaining on Butzite 0 and Blackmistone, 149, trimming the gap down by 1.1 seconds. Meanwhile, Rizaldi Adha and Electric Miri are also closing in on Hug 3 and Deplorably Apple, cutting that time by 1.2 seconds. Okioki 3, Astro Sniper and Wayne 94 are engaged in a close battle for 11th place. Haga 3 and Deplorable Apple are now just behind Beachy 0 and Blackmistone, 149, cutting the gap by 1.7 seconds. Famaka and Naibai are also gaining on La Croissant 1980, reducing their distance by 2.6 seconds. Wayne 4 has moved up one position to take 10th place. Kokibinity and Boris Boris are intensifying their pursuit of 7:27 and Michio Voy, now narrowing the gap to 8.4 seconds. Rizaldi Adha and Electric Mary are making progress on Hugrid 3 and Deplorably Bull, decreasing the difference by 1.1 seconds. Meanwhile, Okioki 3, Astro Sniper and Wayne 94 are locked in a close battle for 10th place. Rizaldi Adha and Electric Miri are now just behind Huggard 3 and Deplorable, having cut their gap by 2.1 seconds. Brinijab and Air 40 are gaining on Wayne 94, closing the distance by 1.2 seconds. Sidrek is also applying pressure to Greninjib and Air 40, reducing the gap by 1.3 seconds. Lord of the Jungle and Kapababak have advanced one position to take third place. Famaka and Naibe are catching up to Lacrosse 1980, decreasing the gap by 3 seconds. Wayne 94 has also moved up one position, now in 10th place. Hopefree and Deplorable are approaching Butchazero, now just 2.6 seconds behind. Famaka and Naibe are catching up to Lacrosse 1980, with a reduced gap of 1.7 seconds. Neotexum is also making progress on El Payo SD and Maya, cutting the deficit down by 1.2 seconds. Lord of the Jungle and Capable Baypack have significantly reduced the gap to Hugger3 and Deplorably Upple by 3.3 seconds. Meanwhile, Gary Z and Robes are also making progress, cutting the distance to Famaka and Naibe by 1.9 seconds. Additionally, Duff Dad and Issy, 1212, have decreased their gap to Cedric by 2.8 seconds. The race dynamics are intensifying as these drivers push for overtakes. Lord of the Jungle and Kapas the Pack have reduced the gap to Hugger3 and Deplorably Upple by 3 seconds. Lacroisson 1980 has moved up one position to take 4th place. Duff Dad and Issy 1212 are closing in on Cedric, also reducing the gap by 3.1 seconds. Sabine 27 and Monsieur Voy are making significant progress, now just 8.7 seconds behind Gary Zard and Robsexjage. Meanwhile, Grinning Jeb and Air 40 have reduced their gap to Wayne 94 by 5.3 seconds. Hugger3 and Deplorable Apple are also gaining on Butchazero and Blackmistern, 149, cutting the distance by 2.8 seconds. The race is tightening as the competitors push forward. Gary Z and Robus XJ have moved up one position to claim 6th place. Cookie Bananity and Boris Boris are now targeting 727 and Monsieur Voy, with a gap reduction of 3.6 seconds. Cedric is also catching up on Grinning Jeb and Air 40, decreasing the distance by 3.9 seconds. Lacroisson 1980 is now just a few seconds behind Hugger3 and Deplorably Upple, cutting the gap down to 3.4 seconds. Meanwhile, Gary Z and Robsexj are gaining on Rizal Diata and Electric Marie, shrinking that distance by 1.3 seconds. Additionally, Sabine 27 and Monsieur Voy are closing in on Famaka and Naibe, with a gap reduction of 1.2 seconds. Sabine 27, Monsieur Voy, and Famaka are locked in a tight battle for 7th place. Bruniep and Air 40 are closing in on Wayne 94, reducing the gap by 2.9 seconds. Rekadrust and Amy are also narrowing the distance to Winzerius Guy and SBS Suma 78, also cutting the gap by 2.9 seconds. Koki Benenati and Boris Boris are significantly reducing the gap to Famaka and Naibi, now just 5.4 seconds behind. Sabina 27 and Misiovoy have made progress, moving up one spot to take 7th place. Greenigap and Air 40 are also gaining on Winter 94, trimming the gap by 1.2 seconds. Rizaldi Adha and Electric Miri are now just 2 seconds behind Lord of the Jungle and Kappas Baipa. Wayne 94 has decreased the distance to Koki by Ninadi and Boris Boris by 1.5 seconds. Okioki 3 and Astro Sniper have closed the gap to Rek Drust and Me, reducing it by 2.8 seconds. Rizaldi Adha and Electric Miri are now only 2.8 seconds behind Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bapak, making significant progress in their pursuit. Famaka and Naibi have decreased the gap to Sabina 27 and Misiovoy by 1.7 seconds, indicating a potential challenge ahead. Meanwhile, Wayne 94 is gaining on Koki by Ninenti and Boris Boris, closing the distance by 2.30 seconds. The race dynamics are shifting with these developments. Wayne 94 is steadily gaining on Koki by Ninti and Boris Boris, with a reduction in the gap by 11 seconds. Lord of the Jungle and Kapab Bapak are also making progress, closing the distance to La Croissant 1980 by 2.5 seconds. Meanwhile, Koki Beninati and Boris Boris are putting pressure on Famaka and Naibi, narrowing the gap by 2.6 seconds. Rizaldi Adha and Electric Miri are now just a second behind Lord of the Jungle and Kapas the Pack, indicating a potential challenge for position. Sabina 27 and Missiovoy have significantly reduced their gap to Garizide and Road Sex J by 3.9 seconds, which could lead to an overtaking opportunity shortly. Meanwhile, Sidrak is also closing in on Greninja and FF40, cutting the distance by 1.1 seconds, suggesting some movement in that battle as well. Hey everyone! It looks like the chat is buzzing with ideas and suggestions. Just to clarify, remember that damage is disabled in our race, so no worries about cars getting wrecked. Everything should keep going smoothly from here on out. And I love the creativity in the chat. It's all about having fun and enjoying these epic AI races together. If anyone's got questions or wants to join the race, just type !race to get your driver in. Let's keep the good vibes rolling. Sidrak is currently in the lead. Duff Dad and Issy 1212 are significantly closing in, with a gap reduction of 7.3 seconds. La Croissant 1980 has advanced one position to second place. Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bapak have also moved up, now occupying third place. Gary Z and Robes J are now roughly 6.4 seconds behind Rizaldi Adha and Electric Marie, indicating a strong push towards making an overtake. Meanwhile, Sabina 27 and Monsieur Voy are also gaining on Gary Z and Robes XG, with a reduced gap of 2.9 seconds. Additionally, Greninjeb and Air 40 are closing in on Wayne Tranani 4 by 1.3 seconds, suggesting potential action in the near future. Hey everyone! It looks like we have some chatter about the race and some curious minds in the chat. Lord of the Jungle, welcome. And Regdrust, you're right. Sometimes those empty characters can create a visual effect in chat. But it's all about how you want to approach it. Now back to the race. We're currently on lap 18 out of 60 at the Adelaide No Chicane track. And we've got some fierce competition, especially with drivers like Bucci leading with that brilliant 1969 Pontiac GTO in first place. Remember, you can join the race too by typing !race in chat if you want to get involved. Let's keep the excitement rolling. Hey everyone, looks like we're chatting about some technical stuff. It seems Wayne Tranani 4 is diving into the nitty-gritty of non-braking spaces, and whether Apex's system can handle them. It's great to see such eagerness for details, and it's always good to hear that Everlasting Apex is feeling confident it won't be an issue. Now, while we're on the topic of confidence, how about these races? Bucci is currently leading with that fast Pontiac GTO. If you want to join in on the fun, just type !race in the chat and pick your car. Let's keep the excitement rolling. Hey everyone! It looks like we're deep into the race at the Adelaide No Chicane track, and we've got some intense action happening on lap 19 out of 60. If there are any questions about how things work or strategies for picking cars, just let me know. And remember, if you're feeling lucky, type !race to jump in on the fun. Let's keep the conversation rolling. What do you think about the current standings? Gary Z and Robes XJ have improved their positions, each moving up one spot to occupy 5th place. Meanwhile, Sabina 27 and Monsieur Voy are gaining on Rizaldi Adha and Electric Marie, decreasing the gap by 3.9 seconds as they push forward in the race. Rizaldi Adha and Electric Marie have both moved up one position into 5th place. Koki Benenati and Boris Oboris are gaining on Famaka and Naibi, decreasing the gap by 1.6 seconds. Rekadrost and Amy are also closing in on Waziri Sky and SBS Suma 78, reducing their gap by 2.5 seconds. Lacroson 1980 is now just 1.4 seconds behind Bucha Zero and Black Mistone 149, indicating a solid push as they close the gap. Rizaldi Ada and Electric Murray are also making progress, narrowing the distance to Huggard 3 and Deplorable by 1.2 seconds. Meanwhile, Cedric is cutting into the lead of Graningeb and Area 40, with a gap reduction of 1.7 seconds. Positions are tightening as the race continues. Huggard 3 and Deplorable are now just 1 second behind Lord of the Jungle and Kaba Bopak, applying pressure for position. Gary Z and Robesex J have moved up 1 spot, now occupying 5th place. Sabina 27 and Missiovoy are steadily closing the gap on Rizaldi Adha and Electric Mary, reducing it by 3.1 seconds. The battle for 6th place among Sabina 27, Missiovoy, and Rizaldi Adha, alongside Electric Mary, is intensifying. Duff Dad and Isio in 12th are rapidly reducing the gap to Cedric, now down to 5.4 seconds. Meanwhile, Lacroson 1980 has cut the distance to Butcher Zero and Black Mistone 149 by 2.6 seconds. Sabina 27 and Missio Voy have made progress, moving up 1 position to take 6th place. Koki Binenati and Boris O'Boris are now just 7.3 seconds behind Famaka and Nabi. Rizaldi Atta and Electric Murray have cut down the distance to Sabina 27 and Missio Voy by 1.8 seconds. Meanwhile, Graningeb and Air 40 have reduced their gap to Waintre 94 by 2.9 seconds. Koki Beninity, also known as Boris O'Boris, is driving a 1969 Pontiac GTO, which started in 1st position. Currently, they have dropped to 9th place and recorded their fastest lap at 1 minute 47.14 seconds. The current race dynamics suggest they are struggling to maintain their early lead, facing pressure from competitors behind. Gary Z and Robe Sex J are now within striking distance of Huggard 3 and Deplorable, cutting the gap down by 3.7 seconds. Meanwhile, Okyoki 3 and Astro Sniper are also making progress towards Rekdrust and Amy, decreasing their gap by 3 seconds. Todar Gardner and Decada Snake have reduced the distance to El PIOSD and Maya by 1.4 seconds, indicating some competitive action ahead. Cedric has made significant progress, reducing the gap to Graningeb and Air 40 by 7.6 seconds. Bamaka and Naibi are also gaining on Rizaldi Ada and Electric Mary, closing the distance by 2.2 seconds. The race is getting more competitive as drivers push their limits. Sabina 27 and Missio Voy are closing in on Gary Z and Robus XG, decreasing the gap by 3 seconds. Rizaldi Ada and Electric Mary are also gaining on Sabina 27 and Missio Voy, closing the distance by 3.5 seconds. Okioka 3 and Astro Sniper are narrowing the gap to Wreckage Rust and myself, reducing it by 1.5 seconds. Sabine 27 and Missio Voy have both advanced by 1 position, now occupying 5th place. Gary Z and Robus XG are engaged in a close contest with Sabina 27 and Missio Voy for this 5th position, creating an intense showdown. Famaka and Naibe are reducing their gap to Rizaldi Ada and Electric Mary by 2 seconds, indicating they are gaining momentum. Wreckage Rust and Amy are closing in on Duff Dad and Issy 1212, with a gap reduction of 5.6 seconds. La Croissant 1980 is approaching Boshizero and Black Mystone 149, bringing the gap down by 2.3 seconds. Famaka and Naibi are also gaining on Rizaldi Ada and Electric Mary, cutting the distance by 1.8 seconds. Sabina 27 and Missio Voy are now just 1.9 seconds behind Hugger 3 and Deplorable, making significant progress. Wreckage Rust and I have moved up 1 spot to take 14th place. Neotexum is catching up to Okiokai 3 and Astro Sniper, closing the gap by 2.7 seconds. Neotexum is now just behind Duff Dad, with a gap reduced to 13.5 seconds. Lord of the Jungle and Kapab Bopek have decreased the distance to La Croissant 1980 by 1.6 seconds. Meanwhile, Gary Z and Robus XG are also closing in on Sabina 27, successfully reducing their gap by another 1.6 seconds. Neotexum is now only 5.7 seconds behind Duff Dad and Issy 1212. Wreckage Rust and Amy have also reduced their gap to Waziri Sky and SBS Tsuma 78 by 1.1 seconds, indicating a potential move soon. Duff Dad is driving a 1972 Maserati Merak, known for its mid-engine layout and distinctive design. Currently in 16th place, his best lap time is 1:57.231 dial. Starting from the 16th position, Duff Dad maintains his position, but may need to push harder to gain ground on the competitors ahead. Le Croissant 1980 is closing in on Boucher 0 and Black Mistone 149, cutting the gap down by 5.5 seconds. Hugged 3 and Deplorable Apple are also getting closer to Lord of the Jungle and Kapabbo Park, with a reduced gap of 2.1 seconds. Meanwhile, Rector Trust and Amy are narrowing the distance to win Serious Sky and SBS to 78 by 1.3 seconds. Welcome back, Adobe Flash Player Ninity. We're so glad to have you with us again. Get ready for some thrilling AI car racing action. Grab your snacks and settle in. It's going to be an exciting ride. Waintra 94 is now just behind Koki Binadinity and Boris Boris, significantly cutting the gap by 9.1 seconds. Meanwhile, La Croissant 1980 continues to gain on Bush 0 and Black Mistone 149, with a reduction in the gap of 2 seconds. Lord of the Jungle and Kapabbo Park are also making progress towards La Croissant 1980, closing the distance by 1.3 seconds. Hugged 3 and Deplorably Apple are making a strong push, cutting the gap to Lord of the Jungle and Kapabbo Park by 1.8 seconds. Meanwhile, Record Rust and Amy are also gaining on Waziria Sky and SBS to 78, reducing that gap by 1.2 seconds. Positions are tightening as the race progresses. Lord of the Jungle and Capable Bopak have moved up one spot to take second place. Hugh 3 and Deplorable Apple are now in third place after also advancing one spot. Waintra 94 is gaining on Koki Binili and Boris Boris, closing the gap by 1.5 seconds. Rizali Adha, driving the 1969 Pontiac GTO, currently holds 7th place. Starting from 9th position, they have managed to gain 2 spots during the race. The fastest lap set by Rizali Adha is 1 minute and 45.607 seconds, indicating solid performance in their class. They seem to be maintaining a consistent pace as they compete with other vintage street cars ahead. Serious Guy and SBS Tuma 78 are now within striking distance of Sidrig, having cut the gap down to 5.4 seconds. Hugged 3 and Deplorable Apple are also gaining on Lord of the Jungle and Kapabbo Park, with a reduction of 1.4 seconds in their gap. Meanwhile, Sabina 27 and Monsieur Voy have decreased their gap to La Croissant 1980 by 2.4 seconds. The race dynamics are shifting as these drivers push for better positions. La Croissant 1980 has successfully moved up 2 spots, and is now in 2nd place. Todd R. Gardner and Decadisnake are gaining on El Payo SD and Maya, closing the gap by 1/3 seconds. The battle for positions is tightening. Lacroissant 1980 is now just behind Bucci 0 and Black Mistone 149, with a gap reduced to approximately 2.5 seconds. Meanwhile, Guaninjib and Air 40 are also making progress on Wayne Tray 94, cutting down their gap by 3.8 seconds. The race is tightening up as these drivers push hard. Famaka, driving the 1969 Pontiac GTO, is currently in 9th place after starting from 18th. They've recorded a fastest lap time of 1 minute and 45.664 seconds, which indicates they are finding pace as the race progresses. The GTO is known for its powerful V8 engine and good weight distribution, helping them gain positions on track. Overall, their race seems to be improving as they move up the field. Lacroissant in 1980 is now focused on catching Butcher 0 and Black Mistone 149, having decreased the gap by 1.5 seconds. Meanwhile, Toldau Gardner and Dakota Snake are also gaining on El POSD and Maya, cutting down the distance by 2.2 seconds. Famaka and Naibi are making significant progress, now just 5.4 seconds behind Rizaldi Adha and Electromiri. Lacroissant 1980 is also gaining ground on Butcher 0 and Black Mistone 149, cutting their gap by 2.2 seconds. Rekidrust and Amy are reducing our gap to Okioki 3 and Astro Sniper by 1.1 seconds. Kokibinanati and Boris Oboris have reduced the gap to Famaka and Naibi by 5.5 seconds, positioning themselves for potential overtakes. Lacroissant 1980 is now just a second behind Bukazero and Black Mistone 149, applying pressure for a pass. Okioke 3 and Astro Sniper are closing in on Wazirius Sky and SBS Suma 78, cutting the gap by 1.1 seconds as they look for an opportunity to overtake. Hey, Rectress! The race is shaping up to be quite exciting. We're currently on lap 30 out of 60 at the Adelaide No Chicane track, and the competition is fierce. The drivers in the vintage street cars class are really pushing it. Right now, Butchai Zero is holding the top spot in the 1969 Pontiac GTO, with a fastest lap of 1 minute and 45 seconds, .902. Meanwhile, you're sitting in 15th place with the 1973 BMW 2002 Turbo Dot. There's still plenty of time left in the race to make some overtakes and climb the leaderboard. How are you feeling about your chances? Rizaldi Ada and Electric Murray are now just 7 seconds behind Gary Z and Robes XJ. Meanwhile, Gary Z and Robes XJ have narrowed the gap to Sabina 27 and Missiovoy by 1.1 seconds. In addition, Grenenjib and Air 40 are reducing their distance to Wayne 94 by 4 seconds. The race is becoming quite dynamic as these drivers close in on each other. La Croissant 1980 is making significant progress, now just ahead of Butcher Zero and Black Mistone, 149 by 3.5 seconds. Sabina 27 and Missiovoy are reducing the gap to Huggard 3 and Deplorably Bull by 1.8 seconds. Rekadrustanai Amy are also closing in on Okyokai 3 and Astro Sniper, decreasing the distance by 1.4 seconds. Huggard 3 and Deplorable Apple are currently catching up to Lord of the Jungle and Kappas Bapak, trimming the gap down by 2.1 seconds. Meanwhile, Sabina 27 and Missiovoy are also closing in on Huggard 3 and Deplorable Evil, decreasing their gap by 1.5 seconds. In another battle, Rizaldi Ada and Electric Mary are reducing the distance to Gary Z and Robes XJ by 1.1 seconds. Race dynamics are intensifying as drivers strive for better positions. La Croissant 1980 is making significant progress, reducing the gap to Butcher Zero and Black Mistone, 149 by 5.6 seconds. At the same time, Huggard 3 and Deplorably Apple are also gaining on Lord of the Jungle and Kapapa Park, closing the distance by 5.3 seconds. Rekadrast and Amy are advancing as well, moving up one position to 13th place. La Croissant 1980 is gaining on Butcher Zero and Black Mistone, 149, cutting the gap down by 1.5 seconds. Lord of the Jungle and Kapab Bapak are also closing in on La Croissant 1980, reducing their distance by 1.7 seconds. Meanwhile, Wazirius Guy and SBS Tuma 78 are making a move on Cedric, decreasing the gap by 2 seconds. Famako and Naibe are rapidly approaching Rizaldi, Ada and Electric Mary, with the gap now down to 5.7 seconds. New Texum is making progress on Wazirius Guy and SBS Tuma 78, cutting the distance by 2.7 seconds. Todar Gardner and Dakota Snake have reduced their gap to Abado and Jessic 72 by 3.5 seconds. Huggard 3 and Deplorable Apple are now just behind Lord of the Jungle and Kapab Bapak, cutting the gap significantly by 6.4 seconds. Neo Texum is also making moves, reducing the distance to Wazirius Guy and SBS Tumi 78 by 5.9 seconds. Additionally, La Croissant 1980 is gaining on Butcher Zero and Black Mistone 149, decreasing the gap by 1.4 seconds. Winzerius Guy SBS Suma 78 and Cedric are currently engaged in a close battle for 14th place. Neo Texum is narrowing the gap to this trio, reducing it by 2.9 seconds. Meanwhile, Todo Gardner and Snake are also gaining on Bobado and Jasak 72, having cut the distance by 3.1 seconds. Koki Benenity and Boris are now just behind Famaka and Naibi, reducing the gap by 1.5 seconds as they approach. Okioki 3 and Astro Sniper are likewise gaining on Greninjub and Air 40, closing the gap by 1.4 seconds. Winzerius Guy has advanced one position to take 14th place, moving past SBS Tsuma 78. Sabina 27 and Misiovoy are now approaching Hugged 3 and Deplorably Apple, cutting down their gap by 1.8 seconds. Duff Dad and Issy, 12 are gaining on Neo Texum, reducing their distance by 2.8 seconds. Todd R. Gardner and Snake are also closing in on Bobado and Jasak 72, decreasing their gap by 2.6 seconds. Lacroixon 1980 has taken the lead, moving up one position to first place. Sabine 27 and Michio Voy have significantly reduced their gap to Huggard 3 and Deplorably Able by 8.5 seconds. Meanwhile, Lord of the Jungle and Kimampuan Bapak are closing the distance on Butcher Zero and Black Mistone, 149, cutting the gap by 1.8 seconds. The dynamic is shifting as these competitors push forward. Lord of the Jungle and Kapab Bapak are now just 1 second behind Butcher Zero and Black Mistone, 149, making significant progress. Neo Texum has advanced one position to take 15th place. Todd Gardner and Dakota Snake are closing the gap on Bobado and Jasak 72, cutting it down by 2.9 seconds. Rekadrust, Amy, and Okioki 3 Astro Sniper are engaging in a close battle for 12th place. Meanwhile, Duff Dad and Issy 1212 are catching up to Cedric, as they've reduced the gap by 2.9 seconds. Toto Gardner and Decade Snake are also gaining on Bobado Jasak 72, closing the distance by 3.8 seconds. OQK3 and Astro Sniper are rapidly approaching Greenijib and Air 40, cutting the gap down by 3.8 seconds. Meanwhile, Duff Dad and Issy 1212 are also gaining on Cedric, reducing their distance by 3.6 seconds. Todd R. Gardner and Dakota Snake continue to close in on Bobado and Jasak 72, decreasing the gap by 1.9 seconds. Okioki 3 and Astro Sniper are gaining on Greninjib, with a gap reduction of 6.4 seconds. Lord of the Jungle and Kapab Bopak are closing in on Butcher's Era, reducing their gap by 1.3 seconds. Meanwhile, Win Serious Guy and SBS Suma 78 have progressed up the ranks, moving to 13th place. Kokibinanity and Boris Boris are now just 6.7 seconds behind Famaka and Naibi, demonstrating a notable pace improvement. Meanwhile, Lord of the Jungle and Kabab Babak have decreased their gap to Butchazero and Black Mista 149 by 3.1 seconds. Zadrek has made progress, moving up one position to take 15th place. Hugot 3. Deplorable is currently in 4th place, having started from 8th. They are driving a 1969 Pontiac GTO, which is known for its powerful V8 engine and classic muscle car design. Their fastest lap so far is 1 minute and 45.804 seconds. The driver appears to be making solid progress, moving up the grid and staying competitive within the top ranks of the vintage street cars category. Lacroson 1980 is currently leading the race and holds the fastest lap time. His performance is strong, considering he started from 17th position, showing a significant gain in track position. This suggests effective pace management and overtaking strategy. He will need to maintain consistency in his lap times to keep this advantage as the race progresses. Famaka and Naibi are making significant progress, now just 3.8 seconds behind Rizaldi Adha and Electric Mary. Meanwhile, Waziri Sky and SBS Suma 78 have reduced their gap to Okiokai 3 and Astro Sniper by 1.3 seconds. Todd R. Gardner and Dekadesnik are also closing in on Bobardo and Jessic 72, now only 1.6 seconds apart. Todd R. Gardner and Decadesnake have reduced the gap to Bobardo and Jasak 72 by 6.8 seconds. Lord of the Jungle and Kabab Babak are now 1.2 seconds closer to Bachazero and Black Mistone 149. Meanwhile, Rizaldi Adha and Electric Me have closed the distance to Gary Z and Robes XG by 2.2 seconds. Rizaldi Adha and Electric Murray are now just 1.2 seconds behind Gary Zaid and Robes XG, showing strong pace as they close the gap. Meanwhile, Kokibinanity and Boris Boris are gaining on Famaka and Naibi, cutting down their lead by 3.2 seconds. Zydrek is also making progress, reducing the gap to Neo Texan by 1.6 seconds. Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Babak are now just over a second away from Butchazero and Black Mistone, 149, significantly closing the gap by 1.4 seconds. Meanwhile, Tala Gardner and Dakota Snake are also making progress, reducing their gap to Bobardo and Jasak 72 by 2.5 seconds. The race is tightening up as competitors begin to converge on each other. Buchizero and Black Mistone, 149, have tightened the gap to La Croissant 1980, now just 3.7 seconds behind. Huggett 3 and Deplorable are also making progress, reducing their gap to Lord of the Jungle and Kapapapak by 2.6 seconds. Meanwhile, Rizaldi Adha and Electric Murray have made a positive move, advancing one position to 6th place. Famaka and Naibe are now just behind Gary Z and Robe 6, having cut the gap to them by 8.9 seconds. Hood 3 and Deplorable are also making headway on Lord of the Jungle and Kapab Bapak, decreasing their gap by 2.2 seconds. Meanwhile, Koki Beninity and Boris O'Boris are chasing down Famaka and Naibe, reducing their lead by 4 seconds. Buchitsero and Black Maystone 149 are intensifying their pursuit of La Croissant 1980, cutting down the gap to 6.3 seconds. Meanwhile, Duff Dad and SC 1212 are making significant progress on Cedric, reducing their distance by 7.8 seconds. Bamaka and Naibi have successfully moved up one spot, now occupying 7th place. Lord of the Jungle and Taipab Baypak are now just a few seconds behind Budgie Zero and Black Mistone 149, decreasing their gap by 5.6 seconds. Meanwhile, Greninja and Air 40 are also making strides, cutting down the distance to Waintra 94 by 6.5 seconds. Huggett 3 and Deplorable are closing in on Lord of the Jungle and Kababa Park, reducing their gap by 1.4 seconds. The race is tightening up considerably. Greninja and Air 40 are now just a second away from Wayne Train 94, continuing to close the gap swiftly. Gary Z and Robe Sex J have reduced their distance to Rizaldi Ada and Electric Murray, now trailing by only 5 seconds. Koki Beninity and Boris O'Boris are making significant progress too, cutting down their gap to Gary Z and Robe Sekti, which is now at 5 seconds. The competition is tightening up as these racers push for better positions. Sabina 27 and Missio Voy are now just behind Huggett 3 and Deplorably Apple, cutting the gap down to 2 seconds. Koki Beninity and Boris O'Boris are also making their move on Gary Z and Robus XJ, tightening the distance by 1.7 seconds. Okioki 3 and Astro Sniper have significantly reduced their gap to Greninja and Air 40 by 3.7 seconds. Lord of the Jungle, driving the 1969 Pontiac GTO, is currently in third place. They started from 10th position and have made significant progress early in the race. Their fastest lap time of 1:45.632 indicates a competitive pace, which has helped them gain valuable positions on the track. The power and agility of the Pontiac GTO seem to be well utilized, allowing them to challenge the drivers ahead effectively. Neil Texum is driving a 1957 Ferrari 250 GT California, known for its lightweight design and powerful V12 engine, offering an excellent balance between speed and handling. Currently positioned in 14th place, Neil Texum started from 20th, making progress through the field. The fastest lap time of 1 minute and 54.685 seconds indicates a solid pace. But they will need to gain more positions to be competitive. Sabina 27 and Missio Voy are continuing to close in on Huggard Free and Deplorably Apple, now just 2.8 seconds behind. Rizaldi Ada and Electric Murray have made an advancement, moving up one spot to take 6th place. The battle for 6th remains intense with Famaka, Naibe, Rizaldi Ada, and Electric Murray, all vying for position. Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bopak are currently reducing the gap to Bukshasero and Black Mistone, 149 by 2.5 seconds. Sabina 27 and Missio Voy are also gaining on Huggard 3 and Deplorable Apple, causing the distance by 2.1 seconds. Meanwhile, Gary Z and Robust XG are approaching Famaka and Naibi, cutting their gap down by 2.8 seconds. Huggard 3 and Deplorably Apple are now just 6 seconds behind Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bopak. Koki Binanity and Boris O'Boris have cut their gap to Gary Z and Robe 6G by 9.1 seconds. Famaka and Naibi are gaining on Rizaldi Adha and Electra Miri, reducing the gap by 1.6 seconds. Okioki 3 and Astro Sniper have made significant progress, now just behind Grenadier and Air 40, with a gap reduced by 1.1 seconds. Neil Texum is steadily closing in on Wuzirius Guy and SBS Tsuma 78, cutting the distance by 1.2 seconds. Meanwhile, Duff Dad and Issy 1212 are also gaining ground on Cydric, lowering the gap by 2.5 seconds. The race is becoming more competitive as positions are tightening. Lacourthon 1980 is leading the race in first place, and has set the fastest lap time of 1 minute 45.385 seconds. This gives him an advantage in both position and pace, making it difficult for competitors to catch up. His strong performance from the starting position suggests good control and strategy throughout the race. As we approach lap 44 out of 60, He appears to be in a solid position to maintain this lead unless he faces any significant challenges. Hey everyone! Looks like there's some friendly banter going on in the chat. Love it. Huggard3. It seems your confidence is shining through. Remember, anything can happen in these races. As we continue through lap 45 out of 60, the drivers are really pushing their vintage street cars to the limit. If you want to join the race and claim a car for yourself, don't forget to type !race in the chat. Who are you cheering for? Sabine at 27 and Michiovoy have decreased the gap to Hugly and Deplorably by 5.4 seconds, now putting them in closer proximity. Gary Z and Robes XJ are also gaining on Famaka and Naibi, cutting their gap by 5 seconds. Meanwhile, Duff Dad and Issy 1212 have closed in significantly on Rectrust and myself, reducing the gap by 16.6 seconds. Huggard3 and Deplorably Apple have reduced the gap to Lord of the Jungle and Kapapa Park by 2.5 seconds, showing strong pace. Famaka and Naibe are also making progress, closing in on Rizaldi Adha and Electric Murray by 1.2 seconds. Meanwhile, Koki Benanity and Boriso Boris are catching up to Gary Z and Robes XD, decreasing the gap by 1.9 seconds. Huggard3 and Deplorable Apple has significantly reduced the gap to Lord of the Jungle and Capable Bapak by 9.6 seconds. Okioki3 and Astro Sniper are also making progress, narrowing their distance to Greenajake and L40 by 7.2 seconds. Meanwhile, Butchizero and Blackmastone 149 are catching up to La Croissant 1980, closing the gap by 1.5 seconds. Lord of the Jungle and Kapabapak have reduced the gap to Bokuzero and Blackmastone 149 by 1.3 seconds. Neo Texum is closing in on the Serious Guy, cutting down the gap by 1 seconds. Regadrus and Amy are also gaining on Duff Dad, cutting the distance by 1.1 seconds. Famaka and Naibe have significantly reduced the gap to Rizaldi Adha and Electric Murray by 1.6 seconds, positioning themselves closely. Neotexum has advanced 1 spot, now holding 13th place. A tight battle is unfolding between the Serious Guy, SBS Tuma 78, and Neotexum, all contesting for that 13th position. Sabina 27 and Michio Voy are now just 3.5 seconds behind Huggard3 and Deplorably Apple, indicating a strong push from both competitors. Wu's Serious Guy and SBS Sumi 78 have moved up one position, now occupying 13th place. Cedric is also gaining on Neotexum, cutting the gap by 1.9 seconds. Target 3 and Deplorable Apple are making significant progress, now just 6.3 seconds behind Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bapak. Come on, hi. Meanwhile, Sabina 27 and Monsieur Voy are also closing in on Hard Free and Deplorable Apple, matching that same gap reduction of 6.3 seconds. On the other hand, Greninjab and Era 40 have reduced the gap to Waintra 94 by 2 seconds, putting them in striking distance. Sabina 27 and Monsieur Voy are continuing to close the gap on Hugger 3 and Deplorable Apple, now just 2.5 seconds behind. Okioki 3 and Astro Sniper are also gaining ground on Greninjab and Air 40, cutting the deficit by 1.1 seconds. Rekdrus has successfully moved up one position to take 16th place, while I remain in my current position. Hugger 3 and Deplorable Apple have decreased the gap to Lord of the Jungle and Kapab Balpak by 3.5 seconds. Meanwhile, Rizaldi Ada and Electric Miri are narrowing the distance between them and Sabina 27, along with Monsieur Voy, cutting the gap by 2.2 seconds. Rizaldi Ada and Electric Miri have reduced the gap to Sabina 27 and Monsieur Voy by 8.30 seconds. Meanwhile, Greninjab and Air 40 are catching Waintra 94, decreasing their gap by 7 seconds. Uchizero and Blackmastone 149 are also closing in on the Croissant 1980, cutting down the distance by 2.8 seconds. Uchizero and Blackmastone 149 are rapidly approaching the Croissant 1980, with the gap now down to 7.2 seconds. Meanwhile, Rizaldi Adha and Electric Miri are also making gains on Sabina 27 and Monsieur Voy, reducing their gap by 7.2 seconds as well. Sidra is closing in on Neotexum, cutting the difference by 2 seconds. Rizaldi Ada, driving a 1969 Pontiac GTO, is currently in 6th place. They started from 9th position, showing good pace with a fastest lap of 1 minute and 45.607 seconds. The car's powerful V8 engine provides strong acceleration, which contributes to their solid performance so far in the race. There haven't been any significant overtakes for this racer recently, but they remain competitive in the midfield. Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bapak continue to gain on Bucciazero and Black Mistone 149, with a gap reduced by 5.6 seconds. Meanwhile, Sabini 27 and Missiovoy are closing in on Huggard 3 and Deplorably Apple, cutting the distance by 1.8 seconds. At the same time, Rizaldi Adha and Lichukmari are also narrowing the gap to Sabina 27 and Missiovoy, reducing it by 1.3 seconds. Koki Benenati and Boris Oboris have now closed the gap to Gary Z and Robusti by 15.6 seconds, indicating a strong push from behind. Rizaldi Ada and Electric Murray are making progress as well, cutting down their deficit to Sabina 27 and Missiovoy by 1.9 seconds. Okiuki 3 and Astro Sniper are also gaining on Greninjeb and Air 40, with a reduction of 3.3 seconds in their gap. The race is heating up as these teams press their advantage. Rekadrust and Amy are reducing the gap to Cedric by 5.5 seconds, looking strong in their pursuit. Blamaka and Naibi are also gaining on Rizaldi Ada and Electric Murray, cutting the gap down by 2.4 seconds. Meanwhile, Koki Benenati and Boris Oboris are closing in on Gary Z and Robusti, decreasing their gap by 2 seconds. The race dynamics are shifting with these drivers intensifying their battles. Hey Wayne994, great to see you chiming in. It's true that there are often adjustments being made behind the scenes to improve the system. The automated nature of the AI definitely adds an interesting layer to our races. If you're looking for specific updates, the Discord server is indeed a good place to check out for those details. Programming can be a bit of a roller coaster sometimes, but the excitement never stops. Now, we're nearing the end of lap 51 here at the Adelaide No Chicane track in our vintage street cars race. Who are you rooting for? Famaka and Nabi are now just 6 sticky seconds behind Rizaldi, Adha and Electric Murray, steadily gaining ground. Okioki 3 and Astro Sniper have chopped 1.4 seconds off their gap to Greninjib and Air 40. Rekadrust alongside Amy has cut down their deficit to Cedric by 1.7 seconds. Bucciazero and Black Mistone 149 are now just behind La Croissant 1980, decreasing the gap to 2.3 seconds. Sabina 27 and Missiovoy have also made progress, cutting the distance to Huggard 3 and Deplorably Apple by 2.8 seconds. Additionally, Famaka and Naibi are closing in on Rizaldi Adha and Electric Murray, with a reduction of 2.7 seconds between them. Rizaldi Ada and Electric Murray are now just 1.3 seconds behind Sabina 27 and Missiovoy, continuing to close the gap. Okioki 3 and Astro Sniper have also reduced their distance to Grenadier and Air 40 by 1.1 seconds. The race is becoming more competitive as these groups tighten up. Butchers and Blackmistone 149 have moved up one spot, now occupying first place. Gary Z and Robust XJ are gaining on Famaka and Naibi, reducing the gap between them by 3.8 seconds. When Sirius Guy and SBS Tsumi 78 are now just 1.3 seconds behind Okyokai 3 and Astro Sniper, continuously gaining ground. Meanwhile, Duffdad and Issy 1212 are also making progress, narrowing the gap to Rectorst and myself. Amy? By 1.1 seconds. The race dynamics are tightening as drivers push for better positions. Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bapa continue to close in on Lockrowine's 1980, now just 2 seconds behind. Okyoki 3, Astro Sniper, and Greninja are locked in a tight fight for 11th place, with each driver making aggressive moves to gain an advantage. Welcome back, Edelbog. It's great to see you again. We're diving into some intense AI car racing today, so get ready for some thrilling action on the track. How have you been? Laquason 1980 is now in first place after moving up one spot. Koki Beninity and Boris Oboris are quickly reducing the gap to Gary Z and Robust XD by 7.9 seconds. Additionally, Sabinger 27 and Monsieur Voy are also closing in on Hugger 3 and Deplorable Apple, cutting the gap by 2 seconds. Hugger 3 and Deplorable Apple have both advanced one position, now in third place. Recadrust and Amy are getting closer to Cedric, decreasing the gap by 1.2 seconds. Sabina 27 and Monsieur Voy are gaining on Lord of the Jungle and Kapab Bapak, now just 2.3 seconds behind. Koki Beninity and Boris Oboris are also closing in on Gary Z and Robe 6J, reducing their gap to 1.4 seconds. A tight battle is unfolding between Greninja, Air 40, and Wayne 94 for 10th place, with positions changing rapidly. Lord of the Jungle and Kapab Bapak are making significant progress, now just 7.5 seconds behind Hugged Free and Deplorably Apple. Winserious Guy and SBS to Me 78 have also gained ground, decreasing their gap to Greninjeb and Air 40 by 7.6 seconds. In another battle, Butchers Arrow and Blackmistone 149 are closing in on Lacroson 1980 with a reduced gap of 1.9 seconds. Position changes continue to unfold as the AI drivers work through their strategies. Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bopak have advanced to third place. Winzerius Guy and SBS Zuma 78 are gaining on Granger and Era 40, narrowing the gap by 2 seconds. Record Rust, Amy and Cydric are closely contending for 15th place. Buchizero and Black Mistone, 149, continue closing on Lacrosse 1980, now just 1.2 seconds behind. Koki Beninity and Boris O'Boris are gaining on Gary Z and Robesex J, cutting the gap down by 2.9 seconds. Meanwhile, Cedric is also making progress, reducing the distance to Neo Texan by 1.2 seconds. The race is tightening up as these competitors push forward. Welcome back, Hippo. It's great to see you again. We're diving into an exciting race with some amazing AI-driven cars today. Get ready for some thrilling moments and let's cheer for our favorite machines. Lacroisson 1980 is currently in first place, driving a 1969 Pontiac GTO, which is well regarded for its balance of power and handling in vintage racing. The car's performance is evident as Lacroisson 1980 has achieved the fastest lap of 1 minute and 45.385 seconds. Starting from position 17, Lacroisson 1980 has executed a strong strategy, gaining 16 positions overall and maintaining a solid lead in the race. Duff Dad is driving a 1972 Maserati Merak, known for its striking design and mid-engine layout that enhances handling. Currently, they are in 16th place, having started in 17. Their fastest lap time is at 1:57.231, showing some competitive pace as they work to improve their position on track. Famaka and Naibi are rapidly closing in on Rizaldi Adha and Electric Miri, cutting the gap down by 9.9 seconds. Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bapak have reduced their distance to Bushi Zero and Black Mistone 149 by 3.3 seconds. Neo Texum has made an advancement, moving up 1 spot to 13th place. Koki Benenity and Boris O'Boris are continuing to close in on Gary Z and Robesex J now, reducing the gap to 3.6 seconds. In the meantime, Rekdrust, Amy and Cydric are engaged in a close fight for 15th place. The tension is rising among these competitors as they jockey for position. Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bapak are now in close pursuit of Bucky Zero and Black Mistone, 149, taking 1.3 seconds off the gap. Meanwhile, Sabina 27 and Missy Ovoy are making strides towards Huggard 3 and Deplorable, closing the gap by 2.7 seconds. Gary said, and Robesex J are also gaining ground on Famaka and Naibe, reducing their deficit by 1.6 seconds. Famaka, driving a 1969 Pontiac GT-O, is currently in 7th place after starting from 18th. Their performance has been consistent, clocking the fastest lap of 1 minute and 45.664 seconds. The GT-O's power and the handling seem to be working well for them as they successfully moved up the grid from their initial position. Welcome back, Pokokon. It's great to see you again. We're just about to dive into some thrilling AI car races. Grab some snacks, get comfortable, and enjoy the show. Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bapak are currently reducing the gap to Bucka Zero and Black Maestone, 149, by 1.1 seconds. Sabine 27 and Miziovoy are closing in on Hug 3 and Deplorable Apple, making up 3.8 seconds. Neotexum is also gaining on Greninja and Era 40, cutting the gap by 2.44 seconds. Buchitsero and Black Mistone 149 are gaining on Lacroix 1980, now just 1.6 seconds behind. Sabina 27 and Missio Voy are also making progress, closing the gap to Huggard 3 and Deplorably Apple by 3.6 seconds. Buchizero and Black Mistone 149 are making significant progress, now just behind Lacroix 1980, having reduced the gap to 2 seconds. Famaka and Naibe are also gaining ground on Rizaldi Edha and Electric Mary, with their gap down to 3 seconds. The pace is increasing as these competitors push to close in on their targets. Rizaldi Adha and Electric Mary are making significant progress, now just 9.9 seconds behind Sabina 27 and Missio Voy. Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bapak have also gained ground on Bucazero and Black Mistone 149, trimming the gap by 1.6 seconds. Meanwhile, Rekadrust and Amy have advanced by 1 position and are now in 15th place. Rekadrust and Amy are significantly closing in on Was Serious Guy and SBS Soma 78, reducing the gap by nearly 10 seconds. Lord of the Jungle and Kappa Bapak are also making progress, cutting down their differential to Buchazero and Black Mistone 149 by almost 4 seconds. Robardo and Dasak 72 have advanced 1 position, now holding 19th place. Lord of the Jungle and Kapaz Bapak are now just behind Buchizero and Black Mistone 149, cutting the gap to them down by 1.1 seconds. Famaka and Naibi are also gaining ground on Rizaldi Auta and Electric Marie, bringing their gap down by 1.2 seconds. Meanwhile, Gary Z and Robesige A were closing in on Famaka and Naibi, reducing that distance by 2.7 seconds. The race is tightening up. Congratulations to La Croissant 1980 on the fantastic win at Adelaide. What an impressive performance! Looks like we have some serious hype in the chat for our leading driver, La Croissant 1980. The excitement is real with all those cheers. Wayne Tren and T4 seems to be keeping his spirits up, even if he's not in the top spots. But hey, finishing best of the rest is still something to celebrate. If anyone wants to join the race themselves, remember to type !race and pick your car number.